Adrian, welcome to the pod.
Shawnee V, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Super excited to be on today. Just talking about what a godly man looks like. Super honored that such a godly man himself would consider me to join today. So that's super cool. Super excited to just talk about some stuff and what it's like to follow God in college, like you said.
100%, man. Let's just start at the beginning. Where did you grow up?
I am from the prestigious town of Loveland, Colorado. Not quite Loveland ski area. Go about hour and a half north of Loveland ski area, and you'll find Loveland, Colorado. And I grew up with my mom, dad, and younger sister, Madeline, who's now a freshman this year in college, which makes me feel super old.
Heck yeah. Where's she going to school? Is she at Colorado State also?
She's not at Colorado State. She is at Northeastern Junior College in Sterling, Colorado. She's doing a 2-year cosmetology program. Super proud of her for getting out of the house, going way farther than me. She was super proud that she went to school way farther than me. So, Maddie, super proud of you for doing that. So that was my family composition. I grew up playing sports, baseball, basketball all the time. Every weekend you were finding me at a field or a court. And so just super thankful for that. Made some of my best friends through sports and even picked up soccer halfway through high school. And that was a great choice. Just playing sports all year round was, kind of how I grew up. It was, make sure your grades were good and then you get to the field and follow through with that. So that's pretty much describes the first 18 years of my life was that.
Pretty much all I know about Loveland, Colorado is Doug's Day Diner. I love that place, man. If I'm ever in Loveland, have you ever eaten there?
We're going to have to go because I have no idea what that is. So I live in Loveland.
Oh man, you missed out for 18 years of your life, dude.
I know. I'll have to, Sean, we're going to have to go next time you're up in Northern Colorado.
I'm in. Talk about when you were younger. Were you the cool kid, the quiet kid, the nerd? Who were you, man?
I definitely would be a blend between the nerd and maybe the cool kid more towards the end of high school.
Cool nerd.
I was just always trying to, get the grades I needed to get. It was just kind of expected of me to go out and do that. And thankfully, the Lord blessed me with the ability to just never study in high school and get A's. That did not translate well to college. Let me tell you, freshman year was rough trying to learn how to study for classes.
I believe you.
And then, I got a little bit of popularity towards the end of high school. Kind of went to my head a little bit. Definitely got a little bit of pride in there. So that's a good battle to work with now. But I think I'd probably be a blend between the cool kid and the nerd. So.
Well, I know you play baseball now at Colorado State University. Was that your favorite sport growing up, baseball?
Yeah, I always had a passion for baseball. I think this is always a tough one because I love basketball so much. Both of them, I'm just baseball is my thing. I was throwing a baseball with my dad at 3 years old, so I was always asking. My mom always tells stories about me asking. When the rec season ends in the second week of June, I was always asking to keep playing, and my mom was like, "Oh, this kid needs to play on some team that plays 60 games a summer." And so I was able to play 60, 70 games a summer, which was such a blessing. Super thankful for everything sports has brought me, but especially baseball just brought me to, in kind of a roundabout way, baseball led me to Christ through a friend who invited me to a place where I gave my life to Christ. So baseball has just been super crucial part of my life for sure.
It's such an incredible game, man. It's an incredible game to spend time with buddies. It's like half sport, half game. You don't really sweat. It's like one of the few sports you can eat while you play. It's a chill sport, man.
You got seeds in the back pocket. You can play 3 games a day, and you're going to be tired, but you're not going to be, you're not limping home after that. So it's great. I love it. Have gone, ever since graduating high school, I've even gotten into coaching it a little bit, which has been super fun. Super thankful for the game.
That is really cool. Well, man, I know you well enough to know that growing up you experienced a significant tragedy in your life. Would you be willing to share about that?
Yeah, for sure. So like I said, I grew up with my mom, dad, and sister, and age 9, or I guess I could preface that with saying, when I was 8, my dad had a heart attack, or he had a stroke while he was driving his truck, and so he was able to get to the hospital. He was safe. But we knew, at that point, he's like, oh, he's got issues in his heart. His heart, one of the walls in his heart was too thick, and it was overworking his heart. So that was when I was 8. When I was 9, he had a fatal heart attack. So he passed away middle of July when I was, right after I turned 9 years old. And Sean, that was, that's a pretty big thing for a 9-year-old to find out, and just to try to move on from. So yeah, that's definitely something that's kind of been crucial and super impactful to my life.
Would you mind taking us to that day? Who told you, and how did it all happen?
Yeah, so that day, July. So he passed away on July 23rd, 2008. July 22nd, we had gone to, that night we'd gone to my sister's T-ball game. And then we went to an ice cream place in Loveland called Dairy Delight. And we, the four of us, our family enjoyed a meal, had some ice cream. We went home, sat at the table. My mom and dad talked about a trip to Spain that they'd always wanted to go on. And then later that night, we watched me and my dad watched the Rockies beat the Dodgers. And, that's a super cool moment for me. Just, actually 2 years ago on July 22nd, the Rockies beat the Dodgers. So that was really cool as well. Just like seeing those those moments even be able to transfer to almost today, which is super cool. But yeah, no, in the morning he passed away. He was feeling kind of sick. And so, my sister was feeling sick. So she jumped into my parents' bed. My dad went to my sister's bed. And that night he had a heart attack. And I wake up and, I'm 9 years old. There's a bunch of people at my house. I don't really know what's going on. Haven't really, my mom doesn't really know what's going on either. They just, they take me out. My cousin, who's about 5 years older than me, he comes over to the house. We're playing catch in the backyard just because, he's someone I've always looked up to. He was always playing baseball and basketball just like me. I wanted to be like Taylor growing up, just because he was cool. He was, at that point, he was 14 years old. So I was like this, he's the coolest kid on the planet because he does all the sports. And so we were hanging out in the backyard, and as a 9-year-old, you don't notice like anything different when paramedics show up to your house. You don't really understand the significance of it. But later that morning-ish, the pastor from our home church, he comes over, and, we sit underneath this tree that we had just planted in our backyard a couple months earlier. And, he explained to me, Adrian, your dad's with Jesus now. He just had a heart attack. He won't be waking up. And, that's something you just sit there and you don't understand. Your little sister's next to you. Your mom's not even there. She's somewhere else. Just to really it's crazy how vivid it is. I could draw a picture if I needed to. And, that night, you don't really process it, don't really know what it means. I remember just that night, like any 9-year-old would do, I just, crying with my mom, but at 9 years old, you don't understand what it means. So that was that day. I mean, all of that it's so vivid because it was so important and so impactful to me. But that's all, that's that day. It's, July 22nd, July 23rd. And then from there on, rest of it's kind of a blur because the rest of it doesn't really register, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense 100% to me. You're 9 years old. And I got to think for a boy at that age, you could go either way, man. Like you're going into your teenage years a few years later, and I've seen it myself where a boy loses the North Star in his life, who in your case happened to be a godly man. And the boy loses that North Star, and all of a sudden he loses his sense of moral and spiritual direction, and things go off the rails Which way did it go for you, bud?
So my mom, in reality, my mom led my dad to Christ and just like having faith. And my dad was still pretty young on his spiritual journey at that point. So, but my mom was definitely kind of, a little bit backwards, but I think my mom was definitely kind of the spiritual figurehead of the house. But you're right, like just moral and like, being a man was definitely lost. So, Sean, it kind of went both ways, if that makes any sense. I mean, from the outside looking in, it looked like I was doing well. I didn't really process the grief of like the loss until I was 13. In reality, in about seventh grade, I definitely hit a wall, just like everything sucks. This is horrible. And I think it was my first and maybe only instance of like actual depression, was just like, I didn't feel like I could get out of this rut. What's going on? Why does this suck so much? So like from the outside, it looked like I was doing well. I'm doing well in school. I'm playing a bunch of sports. I have, fantastic friends around me supporting me that either knew my dad or didn't know my dad, and just continue to support me in that way. But from the outside, I was struggling. Seventh, eighth grade was like, so it was really tough. Like, I didn't know. I'm like, where do I go from here? Is the first time I'd really considered like, oh, this is actually forever. This isn't just like a vacation for dad. This is like forever. He's not coming back. So, I mean, I definitely lost any sort of spiritual connection I had with God at that time. Just my brain was too clouded. I didn't even think that was a solution to turn to. Although my wonderful mother was pushing me towards that every day. Like, I was still making the choice to not want that or not hear it. Cause at 9, when you hear the God of the universe, and then, at 9 through however old I was, hearing the God of the universe who controls everything still let your dad die of a heart attack when you're 9, it's like, that's a lot to process. So I didn't really want it to have anything to do with faith. I would go to church to make mom happy in the morning, and that was about it. There was a couple times where I just was like dreading it. And, I think that shows like where, how weak and how damaged kind of my spiritual life was at that point.
Totally understandable. I can't even imagine what that would be like at that time. I mean, junior high sucks anyway. It doesn't matter who you are.
It really does.
There's so much change and hardship and insecurity.
Really
And
awkward time. Girls can't talk to boys. You're still like telling your friend to it was fun. It's fun to look back at and be like, gosh, that was actually the worst. But junior high, middle school is just a weird time, to say the least.
were there other manhood models or other men that came into your life, took note of you? In my opinion, you turn 12, 13, 14. I don't care who you are, what you've experienced. You need at least one older man to take notice of you and to begin to speak words of life and encouragement and confidence into your life. Did that or did that not happen in your case?
Yeah, Sean, I don't know if it was just one. I think kind of with how, like I said, sports were a big deal, were a huge impacting, a driving force for my life. So I think came into my life through coaching positions. I think initially Chad Robbie, who he was one of my youth baseball coaches. He knew my dad well. His son is one of my better friends from home. He always was just kind of a consistent voice I could turn to and listen to, and he was always guidance. Even when I messed up, pretty publicly messed up, he was still like, he was showing me direction, and super thankful for him. But once I got into college, the high school head coach, Jay Denning, he really took intentionality in taking me and just loving me in the way he only could do. So, super thankful for him and how he was just able to, in reality, just take me under his wing, speak truth into my life, like you said, encourage me, push me to be the man I could be. And so super thankful for him and just coaches in general. Also my high school basketball coach, Joe Johnson, super, you know, both high school coaches, I'm going to have some disagreements when, in the heat of the battle, when games are going online, you're going to have disagreements, but in no way did I ever question either of those men's character abilities, their desires, their intentions with us as players. Just super thankful for both of them, most definitely.
Well, even just hearing about those two guys, I'm just sitting here going, okay, what is the life of Adrian Juarez like without just these two men? If you take out all of their influence, their presence on a daily basis, coaching you, I mean, seems like it would be night and day. Talk a little bit about kind of your spiritual transformation. You said I was lost and wandering and, really kind of angry at God in junior high, early high school. I know you now to be a guy who loves God and wants to bring others to understand God's love for them. How did that happen?
Yeah, no, Sean, it's been a wild last couple of years, to say the least. Just to see the Lord work in the ways He does, to bring me out of that shadow and into the light has been so incredible. Like you said, without those two men, those 2-3 men, just like pouring into me, I don't know where my life would be. I might be, I don't know. Probably unlikely that I get to Colorado State. Probably unlikely that I continue pursuing baseball. And I think for me, pursuing baseball was definitely a big thing in bringing me to Christ. Like I said earlier, I show up as a freshman at CSU, and not sure I have a background in faith at this point. I've been to church, I've done things, but I was not a believer. I was not a follower at all of Jesus at this point. Freshman year, you're just trying to make friends, and we're at practice the first couple of days, and I meet this guy, Matt Carter, and we become friends pretty instantly. Matt's currently my roommate right now, and so super thankful for him. But me and Matt just, he's a year older than me in school, so the cool older guy wants to hang out with me. I'm like, okay, sweet, let's do this. And me and Matt, we're not at that point. We're definitely not doing the most godly activities together. We're just we're living college as they tell you to do. And, and we're playing baseball, which is fun. I'm having a good time. But I just still feel, that spiritual connection is just dead. I don't have anything. I'm not making any efforts, I think, was a big thing for me. I just wasn't making efforts towards God because I didn't think I needed it, because I was so prideful at that point. The last 2 years of high school, I got really high on my horse. Like, I thought I was the coolest guy ever. And going into college, I thought I was going to keep that rolling regardless. So pretty full of it at that point. And, man, me and Matt continue to be.
Real quick, bud, I think every high school athlete has this experience, unless you're like all world top 0.001% of the athletic world. Everybody else goes big fish, small pond, and then you go to college and it's like, I'm kind of a medium fish in a big pond now, and my ego's taking some hits.
Yeah, I think as men in general, pride is such a thing we have to worry about to begin with. I think just overconfidence in situations when in reality, like, God's giving us all these abilities that we can do. So that's a big thing. Just pride in general is huge. I still, a struggle in my life today, like, still something I have to actively, think about, like, hey, how can I be less prideful? How can I do this? But so like I was saying, me and Matt became friends, and Matt invited me to STUMO, student mobilization, Sean, and that, how powerful student mobilization is. And we went to one ministry event, and they invited us to their winter conference, SMC. And that's where I gave my life to Christ there, and realized that, I'd never been a Christian in my life, and I needed Jesus to, save me from my sin here, set me free, and to just, change my life from the inside out. And so, like I said, baseball really, in kind of a roundabout way, led me to the man who was bold enough to, just ask for a friend to come to this thing that he didn't really know much about. He wanted a friend, and I'm super thankful for that. And, like I said, he's my best friend now, lives in the room right behind this. So it's kind of crazy to see how sports getting to the right school is just, God has used all of those to lead me to him.
It's amazing to me that you're talking about a guy who's born 12 months before you were born. And
He's actually
yet,
born 1 month before me. He's actually super young for his grade, and I'm super old. He loves to give me crap. He's 1 month older. Uh, but yeah, so a guy born 1 month earlier than me, just in a different class.
so, so here's a guy who's actually younger than you. And you say he was 1 month younger than you?
1 month older than me.
1 month older than you, but he's become, in a sense, a spiritual father to you. Isn't that crazy how that can work?
Yeah. When he hears this, he'll think it's funny because he says that a lot. And
well, I didn't talk to him. I, I do think it's incredible, man, that when a guy of college age, because here's my experience. My experience a lot is that a lot of guys in college say, man, when I get out of college, then I'm going to take God seriously. When I get married, then I'm going to work on my spiritual life, or I'm going to become more religious or become a godly man, whatever language they might use. And that's why I take particular note whenever I come across guys in college in the heat of the battle at the time when all of the tailwinds, all of the encouragement is for go and feed your flesh, fill up your body with whatever, and live for self and for your own pleasurable experiences. And then I come across every now and then these 21-year-olds who are living differently. And they're like, no, I'm going to live for my creator. I want to be the man that my creator made me to be. And dude, that every single time stops me in my tracks. So just the fact that it blows me away that you would go through the hardships you went through at a young age, and that God brings into your life a guy who's literally 1 month older than you and becomes a mentor and such a powerful spiritual influence. And I know you well enough that in turn, God is using you to reach guys on your baseball team. Maybe you could talk a little bit about your desire for spiritual influence on your team.
Yeah, Sean, I think it's, super thankful for, Matt just asked me one question, just to be like, to spark a conversation. I think, that now that's kind of, what I try to do. I try to ask guys single questions, just like, because my biggest thing is I don't want to be the broken link in the chain. I've had so many guys like pour into me spiritually. So many guys at CSU, so many guys a part of Stumo West, that I've been able to meet, so many incredible men that have poured into me. It's like, God has set out a mission for us to go and make disciples. And, that's my purpose here on earth. And it's been super cool to see my heart change for that. Everything before, coming to Christ was, how do I make people like me? How do I make people, respect what I do on the field? How do I make people respect what I do in the classroom? But now it's, how do I impact people for the gospel, and how do I share the good news of Jesus to others? So, on the team, it's just like, I was once the lost freshman, and someone had boldness to just ask me one question about faith. And, whether that answer was, I have a background, I don't have a background, I think that's dumb, I think that's awesome. Just like asking those questions and like getting guys thinking, because I think, Sean, what you're saying, like, we are in the heat of the battle. And so a lot of college age guys just don't even think about it. It's like so far off. Like you said, like, oh, I can worry about that later. But in reality, it's, the sooner you can, Jesus wants us to all be found today. I'll find him today. So we're just, I think as a culture, we just kind of push it off and think, oh, I can become religious whenever I want to, or I can, and like you said, whatever verbatim they use. But I think just someone being intentional, pushing for you to go and search for the gospel yourself, or search through the Bible, or search through whatever you need to search. If you need to go, look at physical data and just like how the earth is so finely tuned to scream at a creator as it does, just like the tilt of the world, all that stuff. Like if you need to go find that, might just take someone to encourage you to go push that. So that's what I try to do now. I try to I lead a Bible study once a week for those baseball guys. And it's just been super encouraging to see new guys come, and like guys that aren't, have never opened a Bible in their life. They'll come and talk, and we'll just, be able to sit down and talk with those guys. So I've been super encouraged to see God move, be able to use me as a tool. Been super humbled by that. Just, let God work through me for his mission for the world. And that just happens to be baseball here at CSU.
Well, that's incredible, man. I do think it's easy for guys to write off older guys sometimes. You look at a guy like me, in his 40s, and you're a college baseball player, and you look at a guy like me and you go, well, yeah, of course he's supposed to be, respectable or making wise decisions or not out getting wasted or hooking up with chicks or whatever. But man, that's why it's so powerful when they look over and there's a guy their age, a teammate who's trying to walk with God, who's trying to make wise decisions, who's not giving in to some of the temptations, who's dealing with his failures. I mean, obviously you fail. You mentioned earlier you had some public failures that you had to come back from. And to me, that's also a way to have an influence on guys, because they see how you deal with falling down. Do you go and hide? Do you cover it up? Do you deny that ever happened? Or do you admit it humbly and go, guys, I messed up. I just want to admit that. I know God forgives me, but I also feel like I want to be authentic and just admit it to you guys. I think all of that can be a part of increasing your influence versus decreasing. And for some reason in our culture, youth are the ones who have the influence. Asian cultures, I don't see that. But in our culture, it's like the younger you are, the more people want to pay attention to you and hear what you have to say. And you can capitalize on that. And you are, man. We're out of time, bud, and I hate that, because I feel like I say this every pod. We only scratch the surface of your life and how God's working in your life. We're going to have to get you back, bud. We won't take no for an answer, okay?
Yeah, Sean, thanks again, man, for having me on. It was super, super fun to just sit down and talk. Super glad that you chose me to be on today. I think that's super cool. Hope to be back shortly. Whenever you ask, it won't be a no. Don't worry.
Adrian Juarez, I think you know this already, but you are on the endangered species list. Our prayers that you go out and proliferate, my man. Take care, bud. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.